So this is a very short panel, and I hope that we can have a very straightforward conversation around social innovation, blockchain technology, and the buzzword currently, which is fighting corruption or anti-corruption. So I'd like to start with Lola because you came last. And then I know you won't like me to say this, but at the moment you are the closest to government, as it were, in public sector. So can you tell us from your experience, we all know that finding data is a big challenge. Prior to your current service, you were involved in a lot of research. You did a lot of research projects. So you and data, you're 5 and 6. So can you tell us what kinds of trends have you seen or innovation have you seen around the area of using blockchain, if available, or technology to even, let's even start from data, to even get verifiable, authentic, and credible data in Nigeria?
Good afternoon, everybody. That's a very good question. I think you can look at it from two different ways. So I can talk about some of the innovation that's happening in research in public service in general, but then we can also talk about, you know, Nigeria and some of the peculiarities about data here. And I can speak specifically about MBS as well. So at the National Bureau of Statistics, in public service, I don't think that technology and innovation is something that we are known for. I think for many MDAs, we're still trying to figure out even how to collect information, how to collect data, how to use that data, disseminate it, and stuff like that. So it's actually very basic. I'm very intimidated by everybody that's here. We're very basic when it comes to technology and innovation. But I think for us at the National Bureau of Statistics, what we're looking at, obviously, that can be very helpful for us is things like GPS or like mobile technology. In other countries, for example, you can use mobile technology to understand where people are, like movement of people within the country or even outside of country. So for example, it's, you know, coming on Christmas time, there are people that are moving to the village or some people that are coming to the city. So you can track those kind of movements. You can also use that for visualization to better understand data. So for us at National Bureau of Statistics, that's pretty much what we're looking at, GPS-enabled technology, so you can verify information. Right now, most, if not all of our surveys use GPS-enabled technology, so we're able to verify data. We're able to go back and verify if what's entered in the system is accurate. But even if you have, I don't want to get too technical about statistics, but if you have an error and you need to replace, for example, a respondent, you can also use that data to select from enumeration areas so you can replace that information. So from the point of view of the National Bureau of Statistics, that's really where technology comes in. Right now, although there's a lot of, obviously, opportunities for use in the future. But in other markets, for example, I know that specifically when you're talking about blockchain technology, you can use it for, like, you know, pension, or you can use it for identity, like national identity, and things like that. So I'm not sure that we're there yet, but I mean, obviously, we know what's happening. There's an exposure to what's happening globally as well, but there's a lot that still needs to be done in the public service environment here.
All right, thank you, Lola. You mentioned data visualization, and of course, when we talk about data visualization in Nigeria, everybody looks to Budgit. Now, you've been collecting data for a while. Are there particular trends that you have noticed? If you were to explain what is new or what is different about the data sources that we have currently, because you have to get the data from MBS most of the time and then other sources, and then you are tasked with the responsibility of explaining it to people. And you've been doing this for a while, which is, of course, social innovation, getting people to get more interested to understand the budget process and all of that. what has changed in the work that you have done, so far? Let's start from there.
Okay, very quickly, considering our time. What has changed? It keeps changing anyways, and if I will make reference shortly to our latest deployment in the use of data. But we have ensured that in the quest of delivering our work, we seek to use a verifiable sources of data, which most of the time we like to quote government data, right? But even at that, we still find ourselves in a situation where most of the data we put out, though they are public data from public sources, are still subject to contestation and a lot of back and forth on them. But if you look at what we deployed recently, the LG Alert, where we now want to take it beyond people that have access to smartphone or can have access to broadband technology, to ordinary Nigerian that can just use SMS to USSD to get information at the tip of their finger. Yes, but we still find ourselves in such a situation that we have to use government data, talking about allocations of what goes from federal government to local government to state and local government level, and presenting it in a manner that, irrespective of who you are, that rural farmer on his farm that has a phone that can connect to SMS can send certain short code to a certain number, and it will give you data directly from government sources.
So I'd like to quickly ask, before I go to Toby, also because of our time is, so with the work that you've done with data, what sorts of changes? I know that a lot of response, a lot of innovation, campaigns and all of that. But what sort of response? I mean, by the way, today there are 2 elections in Kogi and Bayelsa. What sort of response do you envisage or impact do you want to see as Budgit going into 2020? And so much is being said about 2020, decade of action, 10 years to the end of the SDGs. So I know that Toby is also going to answer that question, but I'd like you to start.
Interestingly, I would say that some of the changes we like to see or impact we like to see are beginning to happen. Not at the scale we want them to happen, but they are beginning to happen, which is that most of what we do naturally are meant to be the responsibilities of government, right? It was because there was a gap that we are trying to fill those gaps. But we are now entering that era where what we do, though in some quarters they are contended, but they are recognized. And we are now even having a situation where government agencies are taking initiative of some of those things we used to do. I will take an example of 2019. Before 2019, in the last 8 years, when federal government releases their budget, right, we picked that budget up to simplify it into a citizen budget. But in 2019, that changed, and we expect that it will continue, such that even before we came out with our simplified budget of 2019, the Budget Office of the Federation did that, which shows that they've seen value in what we are doing, and they are now taking ownership of that process. And we have also seen an extension of partnership and of friendship from some government agencies, right, that are saying, okay, we recognize what you are doing. And very key one, I'm under obligation not to disclose here, but very key one that will help our work, but not our work, the ultimate vision for our work, which is improved service delivery for Nigerian people, is beginning to happen.
All right. Toby, I'll bring yours down to young people, to innovators, social innovators, and all of that. Now, in the light of big data, blockchain technology, and the rest, how do you think young people can take best advantage of these to implement, even if it's not large scale, but, small scale innovative projects in communities?
Okay, first of all, it's very important for us to know that data is important. And talking about data for young people, now, there's one thing, according to reports, there's a money that's supposed to come into Nigeria as regards the SDGs every year. But because in Nigeria we don't have a tracking process to show how the money is being spent, we've not had access to that money, because definitely you need to report how much has been spent. So which is actually causing us delay in achieving the Vision 2030 of the SDGs.
And that's 5 years into it.
Yeah. So as young people, we need young people that can come up with solutions that can help the office of the president to actually look for where we can track how these monies are being spent. In China, young people are coming up with technology to help track budget spending. young people are coming out with innovative ideas, using data to say, okay, how can we actually help the government in making sure that money being disposed to different local government are being used for that purpose? So if young people who have this data, because getting data in Nigeria is kind of stressful, because one thing at Social Good Lego, we're trying to create a mapping where young people can give us data, and if you want to implement any project, by going to that particular site, you can know, okay, this particular local government, a project has been done. We don't need to go there, because we keep flooding a particular local government because in Nigeria we don't have data. So if young people can come up with innovative ideas that can help us tackle this problem, I believe it will actually go a long way.
All right, so what I hear you say is that the network you represent, Social Good Lagos, the UN system, and that whole ecosystem will be working either hand in hand with Budgit or trying to complement or improve and deepen the sort of work that Budgit does.
Okay. Funny enough, one of our goals for next is to work with Budgit, because one of the things they're using is tracker. And we'll be looking at how effective that is. So because as Social Good Lagos, we use new media and technology to achieve the SDGs. And one thing we're trying to also achieve is putting an end to corruption in Nigeria. So by working with Budgit, we have it in our plan for next year to see how we can work together to make sure that funds being disposed to your senators, to your government, are being used at the right time and also for the right purpose that fund is being disposed for.
Okay, so I'm told we have a few minutes and I'm trying to cheat. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions in one, and then we'll go around and we'll wrap up the session. The first is, with respect to anti-corruption. With respect to anti-corruption, what do you think the approach should be in tackling anti-corruption using technology? That's number 1. Number 2, when we talk about blockchain, big data and all of that towards digital and social innovation, in 5 or 10 years, what would you like to see? That's 2. Then the third question would be, I'm just piggybacking on what Gabriel said with respect to the work that Budgit does and all the multiple data sets that we have out there, and I don't want to go into that, the number of times you have to submit your data and all of that. What do you think that blockchain will help each Nigerian do? So it's easy for us to, and I'm explaining my last question, it's easy for us to say government, right? Everybody expects government to do something. But as a regular citizen, as a young person, right, what do you think that blockchain would help you do or an individual do in innovating for his or her community?
Okay.
The first, anti-corruption, and approach to fighting corruption in Nigeria. The second is, what would you like to see in 5 to 10 years with respect to the role that blockchain is playing and how things are going to change, hopefully, in the country. And then the last is, what should anybody, this is sort of a challenge to everybody. It's easy for us to sit and listen. What should each person do about that?
Okay, if we really want to end corruption, the government needs to actually go into blockchain technology, because 20 million transactions can be carried out every day if you use blockchain technology. Just yesterday, I was having a meeting here in Lagos with the biggest blockchain and crypto in the world. They're trying to set up a Nigerian office, and it's been very stressful for them because of the old policy as regards blockchain. So for question 1 and 2, if the country or the government really want to put an end to corruption, they really need to go into blockchain technology, because this is the only way you can track how money goes from one office to another, and also how the money is being spent, because these things are being used in other countries. So I still find it difficult why in Nigeria the government don't want to embrace these things, because this is something that will make people trust you. And if you want to have the words of your people, if you want the backing of your people, you need to do something that will make them to you're credible. And one thing that we lack in Nigeria is credibility. So if the government really want to end corruption, they should go into blockchain technology. 2, in the next 5 to 10 years, I want to see blockchain as something that has been embraced. Simply because this thing can actually make life easy for everybody. As regards carrying cash, now we're talking about cashless policy. Crypto and blockchain is one thing that we should embrace. So the next 5 to 10 years, I want to see young people in this room coming up with innovative ideas to complement what is already on ground, to put an end to corruption. The next 3 years, we're talking about another election, and I want us to see a process where even with election, we can actually use blockchain to carry out the election because it's all about technology. So I believe young people here should come up with that idea and not allow what the government is doing to actually kill that dream down, but to keep fighting to make sure that we see this thing come into play. Thank you.
Okay, that sounded like a campaign manifesto. Thank you, Toby. Gabriel. Budget, blockchain, your thoughts?
So the space is really wide, and there are a lot of opportunities that can happen. 6 months ago, we didn't have an idea of how someone in the back end of a rural community can have access to data, right? It was just an idea that we sat on one day and we thought about it. And by the way, Dele that just left the stage developed the LG Alert platform for us. And we sat down and we thought about it, and we called in Dele, right? He used to be in the house before anyways. And in the space of 2 months, we put it to use, right? So it shows that there's still a lot of innovation that can happen, right? And each solution is not an end to itself. So it's a challenge to every tech person in the room, right? Whatever one have done, we can pick it up and still see what else can we do on it. So in a matter of years, and aside from us tech guys and normal citizens, everyday citizens, we want to also see government, right? This administration, for example, says they are fighting corruption. Can they really come out to even call an hackathon for tech guys to develop solutions that can be used to fight corruption? So that, because technology has come to stay, the earlier we embrace it and integrate it into what's every aspect of our life, the better for us. So very soon I want to see that happening.
Okay. Lola, when we say government, we're not talking about you, don't worry. But really, before you speak, I'd just like to say that it is commendable that the MBS has actually been proactive. For the first time, I think, for as long as I've been conscious that I'm a citizen of Nigeria, I would say that the MBS has really been proactive with giving us quarterly updates, data, and all of that. But you had said earlier, you alluded to the fact that innovation is not something that, the public sector is really known for. Are you, or is the Bureau looking at blockchain and how? Not just for giving us statistics, but of course, you're with the Ministry for Planning, so planning and all the future things that I would like to see in Nigeria.
I think thank you for saying all those kind words about National Bureau of Statistics. I think we all work very, very hard towards that goal. I'm very happy to be sitting here with Gabriel because Budgit is, I think, one of our very, very, very close allies. And Dr. Kale is very happy to work with you guys, as you know. So I think the short answer to your question is no. From our point of view, the gap for us is so wide. And I think it is really important, even if you have large goals, it's important to break your large goals into smaller morsels. And I think for us, if we can even, I mentioned like mobile technology, for example, even if we can just innovate and really take advantage of everything that has to happen, then hopefully maybe the next step, they can move forward from what we've built. But if we don't build that, if we're trying to jump to number 10, we're not going to get there. And then the next person doesn't have something to build upon. So I think from our perspective, realistically, the best we can do is keep abreast of what's happening, keep abreast of what innovative technology is out there and how it can be of use to us now. But what we are really focused on is what we're currently doing, like you mentioned, some of the quarterly reports that we do, what immediate, low-hanging fruits, as they say, that we can take advantage of to improve the efficiency of that. So blockchain technology is something that we're aware of. We take a lot of meetings about this, but we have to understand, and I think that's one thing I actually wanted to bring to point, is that we don't always have to count on government, right? Like accountability is, the responsibility is both ways. And I love that this panel has like an organization like Budgit has your organization, because it's when civil sector organizations as well as private sector organizations pull forward towards accountability that we can really achieve it. Like the example Gabriel gave, if they didn't, for example, do the citizens' budget, perhaps the budget office might not have even done that. But they were able to do that. So what I want to say to young people here is that if you have innovative solutions, even for civil sector organizations, I think it's important to also push that. You don't always have to go straight to the minister's office, for example. You can work with some of the gentlemen here, even to put forth, if you have a solution for public service delivery. They're the ones that really can put pressure on government organizations.
Thank you very much. Lola, can we give them a round of applause?